Hi everyone. I hope you're all having a great week. I have an idea in my head to use neurographic art to create a really abstract looking Christmas card, like a zoomed in shot on a decorated Christmas tree. And I'm not really sure how it's going to work, but I'm going to give it a go and see where this process will take me. At the very least, what I think this whole creative process will do for me is give me a chance to slow things down a little bit and bring some relaxing energy into my life. Oftentimes, when I'm starting a project like this, even though I have an idea in my head of what I might like to create, I don't always know exactly how to start. So I usually start by putting in a background color, adding a little bit of salt, and hope that when it dries, I'll know what next step to take. And that's a huge part of my intuitive creative process. Since I want to create a zoomed in shot of an abstract Christmas tree, like an abstract decorated Christmas tree, of course, I want to have some decorations in the middle of my tree. And so I'm using my stencil guide to create some circles, and those will be representative of my decorations in the tree. I'm feeling playful with this one, and I want to add more color. I made some Christmas cards earlier this month that were more monochromatic, and I think they were really beautiful, but I want to be a little bit more out there. I think Christmas decorations come in all shapes and sizes, and usually around this time of the year, things are really bright and colorful and cheerful, and I want to replicate that. So I'm going to be doing something that's probably not so conventional. In the end, I think it's going to look maybe even a little bit retro, which I think will be really cool. Um, but again, I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen. So I'm just kind of playing it by ear. That's a whole, that's the intuitive creative process, is playing it by ear, trusting that my intuition will guide me every step of the way. And in the end, we'll see. Will I like it? Will I not like it? I'm not 100% sure, but I am really excited to see what's going to happen. So my tree will be green, or the what's gonna represent my tree is gonna be green. Like I said before, at this time of the year, that's one of the cool things is you don't really need to stick with the conventional. You can go with just about any color at this point in time. But I used to have a very traditional Christmas, and we always had a green tree in my house when I was growing up. So I'm gonna stick to having green in the background, and I want my ornaments, my glass balls or my abstract glass balls to be red, and I'll probably add some other colors to them, and we'll see as I keep going along. I added salt, and now I'm coming in and adding the green. I will probably try to add a little bit more salt to this to see if I can keep those textures, and I really don't know in the end if any of this is still going to be showing. And that's, also part of the intuitive creative process is, I'm trusting that with every step, whatever I'm adding is what needs to be there. And so if the textures show, that's great. If they don't, that's okay too. The whole point was to get my process started, and I was able to do that. And now I'm starting to flow in the creative process, and I'm feeling excited for what comes next. I was feeling excited and really eager to start putting some more color into my circles, and so I started adding the Carmine Naccarat in the circles, in that corner circle there, before the green was completely dry and it bled into the paint. I thought I would like it if it did that, and I actually didn't, so my intuition said, nope, stop doing that and wait till it dries. And so that's what I did. And once it was completely dry, I removed the salt from the green section of my background. And now I'm coming in and I'm adding the Carmine Naccarat. You'll notice that I'm not being overly careful about adding the color because I am going to come back in with some black markers and I'll make like quote unquote corrections where I go over the lines with my paint. So I'm not going to stress about that. The whole point of this process is to keep it relaxing and fun. So that's what I'm doing. I'm not stressing. I'm painting in those circles, adding the color. And once this is all dry, I'll come in with my black markers and I'll start to add some neurographic lines. I trace the contour of my circles using the thickest end of my dual tip zig marker. And now I'm coming in with the fine tip end and I'm adding my lines. In these little card fronts, the lines I'm currently creating, the what are going to be my neurographic lines, and remember, I've said it many times in the past, and I'll say it again, I do neurographic art my way. I don't follow the quote-unquote neurographic rules. So I'm borrowing from neurographic art, but I'm not necessarily creating neurographic art exactly the way that people who use it for therapeutic reasons use it. Though I do find it to be very therapeutic to do this. So I love to turn to neurographic art when I'm having a particularly stressful time, or if I'm very busy and I need a little bit of time to sort of slow things down, I turn to neurographic art very often. So yes, I'm creating these lines here, which are what I said are my neurographic lines. And these lines in my little abstract card fronts are going to represent the strings of lights that are in my tree. This is what I'm imagining. I'm not 100% sure how it's going to work out, but right now I'm excited about the idea and I'm looking forward to keep this process moving along so that I can see the final product. But as in any process, it's not about the result. It really is about the journey to get to the result. And so I'm trying to remember that because I don't want to rush things along too much. There is really something zen and healing about slowing things down and not being in too big of a hurry to get to the end. So this is me trying to be patient. And anytime I use the word try, I hear Yoda's voice in my head saying, do or do not. There is no try. So it's not about trying, it's just about doing or not doing. So at this point in time, it's all about being patient. In case some of you are new to my channel or new to the concept of neurographic art, I will include in my video description a couple of videos where I explain the process in a little bit more detail because I'm not really doing that in this video. I'm using the concept of neurographic art to create my abstract artwork, but I feel like I've gone over the process in a number of different videos, and so I'd like to direct you to those videos if you're new to neurographic art and you'd like to know a little bit more about it and what it is I'm doing right now. And yeah, hopefully that will answer questions you may have. And if for whatever reason those videos are still not enough to answer your questions, as always, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to me. I love connecting with you, and I'd be happy to answer your questions. Once I've used my finer tip marker to basically create lines or rounded off lines in those areas where lines were intersecting, I always find it easiest to work with my brush pen to color in those sections. So I've moved on to using my brush pen and I'm simply gonna color in all of those lines that I just made, and I'm gonna round off those areas. And remember, these lines, these black lines that are in my painting right now are going to be representing the strings of light that would normally be in a Christmas tree or a decorated Christmas tree. And I'll add some more features to these lines later on to make it look a little bit more like that. But for now, I'm just coloring in those areas. And yeah, as I mentioned before, working on being mindful and slowing down the process, being patient with the process. And this affords me at the same time the opportunity to be more relaxed and present in this moment. I've had a number of people comment to me in the past that they're really surprised that this kind of art form has taken off because this is something they used to do when they were much younger and it was never really considered art. Um, I think personally that anything that's creative is art, whether it be cooking, whether it be building a piece of furniture, or whatever. If it's creative, to me, it is art. It is artistry. And so neurographic art to me is very much like art. And it's very simple, yes, but does art really need to be complicated in order for it to be considered art? That's a really interesting question, I guess. And I mean, there are art critics and there are, art galleries, and the art world can be, oh man, for lack of a better word, I'm thinking judgy. And, mm, depending on where you are at in your creative journey and how you feel about all that, maybe that works for you. For me, that doesn't work for me. I'm here to create because I want to express what's in me. And if I am trying to follow rules of people who are trying to tell me how I should be creating, then all of a sudden it's not going to come from me and it's not going to feel personal and it's not going to really fuel my creative process. And so I try not to listen to these judgments or pay too much attention to what, other people out there may have to say. We all have a right to our opinion, and art can be a very subjective thing. But in the end, does it feel right for us? Does what we are creating feel right for us? And I think ultimately for me, that's what really matters. And so I love creating neurographic art. I love how it's got a little bit of a native vibe to it. When I'm looking at these lines right now, I'm thinking of all the wonderful Native American art that's out there, and I sort of get that a little bit of that vibe, and I love that about neurographic art. And then I get to sort of move away from the things that I've been influenced by in society, like like the Native American art that I love so much, and I get to sort of give it my own little flair. And that's an important part of my creative process. So I'm kind of just listening to my intuition, and I'm going with the flow and creating as I'm going along the things that my soul is asking me to create. And that's it. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. Those contrasting black lines in my painting are really helping to add some dimension to my painting, but I feel like, of course, this is far from being done, and I want to add a whole lot more detail to my painting to make it more interesting. So I'm just continuing to add with my pencil some lines here where I'm going to sort of I'm sort of just in the process of delineating where I'm going to add some vertical lines. And I will, once I'm done adding those vertical lines, erase those pencil marks that I'm creating right now. As you know, I also added some circles to the interior of the circles I had already created. And of course, I'm going to be adding some more paint and maybe some more pen work in those areas. Again, this is an abstract, retro, probably Christmas themed painting that I intend on adding to some card stock so that I can have a few more like really different looking Christmas cards. And I'm experimenting. I mean, isn't that what art's all about? Experimenting, using our imagination to create different things and really seeing what is possible. So that's what I'm doing. I'm playing. I'm just experimenting with lines and I'm trying to do different things. I'm also doing things that I've probably also done in past paintings, but I'm doing it in a different way because I'm using different colors, I'm using different marks, and I'm also gonna play with a lot of iridescent color because I love iridescent color. And you know what? During the holidays, isn't that what makes the holidays sort of special? The fact that we are lighting up our houses, we're lighting up um, our streets and our towns to make it more festive. So the iridescent paints are going to help me do that in this painting, and I hope in the end that what I'm imagining in my head will come to life and that I'll be happy with the final product. But for now, I can tell you this, I am feeling very satisfied with what I have done up till now. The intuitive creative process is really all about trust. It's trusting that your intuition will guide you to the right next step. Right now, as I'm working on editing this video, trust is playing a huge factor in my life because for the last 24 hours, we have been out of power and we do not have access to the internet. So I do not know if I'll be able to post a video this week, and that will be the first time. If I don't post a video, it'll be the first time in well, since I started as a YouTube content creator. So I'm a little bit anxious about that, but I'm really trying to just trust in the fact that whatever needs to happen will happen. Oftentimes in life, there are things that are just beyond our control, and we can let them bring us down, or we can pick ourselves up, keep chugging along, and trust that what needs to happen for the greater good will actually happen. And I'm graciously accepting that the greater good probably has nothing to do with whether or not I'll be able to actually post a video this week. Trust. It's a big part of life. And of course, we need to do our part and we can't just sit idly and wait for things to just magically happen to us. But we can only also do so much. And in this case, I can work on editing this video. I was able to work on creating the painting. I was able to record it because I do still have access to my phone and all that stuff. But I don't have any control over whether or not the power will be back in time for me to have this video posted. And so I need to trust that whatever happens will be exactly what needs to happen and that that's going to be fine. So that's just, I guess, a little tidbit on embracing the intuitive creative process and embracing life as a whole. We don't always have control over the things that happen around us. What we can control is the things that we can do. So I can edit this video and I can plan for it to go live tomorrow. In my head, I'm seeing this happening, but I have no way of knowing if it will or not because there are factors that are not within my control. C'est la vie. And some of you may be wondering how the heck that all relates to trusting in the intuitive creative process. And really it's just that, you get these little intuitive nudges and you try something and you trust that it's going to work out. Sometimes it does work out and sometimes it doesn't. And that's the thing that relates to the whole trusting issue. Ultimately, let's just remember this. Whether or not what we try works, there's always the potential to learn something. I'm excited that this week I get to play with a new color from Kremer Pigments, and it's called Ultra Rutile Blue Pearl. It's an iridescent interference color with bluish tones to it. It's a little bit like my Tropical Sunrise Magic Green that I love so much. And I've been eyeing it for a while and I finally decided to buy it. I'm not 100% sure that this is going to be the best application for it, but I do think it will be fun to at least give it a try. And I'm super excited to add it to my palette because I think there's a lot of potential for this paint. I like where this is heading so far, and at the same time, I'm feeling a need to brighten things up a little bit. So I've pulled out my CSY golden palette, and I'm going to use some of that 24 karat Merc Gold to spice things up. And oh, yes, this is definitely the right direction to head. That 24 karat Merc Gold is perfect and it is so bright and beautiful, and it's doing exactly what I was hoping it would do. It is brightening up this little painting, and I think it's going to make it look even more festive. I'm not really feeling like this little painting is done yet, but I had double taped my frame around the paintings. And so I'm going to remove that first layer of paint and I'm going to add a little bit of color in there to see if I'm feeling better about the whole thing. Not that I don't like what I've created so far. I like what I've created so far, but I feel like I need to add a little bit more red maybe. Now I'll remove the last layer of tape and see what my intuition guides me to do next. Normally I like to keep a white frame around my little paintings, but since this is going to be a card front, and not just any card front, a holiday card front, I have decided to add more gold. Okay, I'm liking where this is heading, but I do feel like the paintings themselves need a little bit more attention, and I'm gonna have to add a little bit more color, a little bit more contrast. And I'll start by doing the contrast bit by using my Cutalola pen to create some stippling inside the shapes that are basically the interior of my tree. The stippling definitely added a lot more dimension to the paintings, and now I feel ready to start adding a little bit more interest in those black lines. Remember, initially I said those black lines are going to represent the strings of light in my abstract Christmas tree. And so I'm going to add these little dots of white in the lines, and I think this will be a good abstract way to represent that. Because there's quite a bit of gold in this painting, considering the outside frame is gold, I feel a need to add a little bit more color in the center that will sort of distract the eye from all that gold, because the green itself is also a color that has yellow in it. And so it makes the painting feel a little bit too yellow right now. So I'm gonna add this midnight blue in the hopes of switching things up a little bit and adding more visual interest to the center of the painting. I don't want the frame to be the highlight of this painting, and so I need to do something to really tone down that gold. I love the gold. I'm really happy with the gold frame, but again, I need to find a way to make the center of the painting the focal point of the painting, and so I think this blue is going to help do that. Yes, 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 this is definitely way better. I'm really loving how those metallic paints are playing so beautifully against the matte paints in the background, and when that light catches them, it's just, oh, really, really pretty. I was going to just add the little paintings to some white cardstock, and then I thought, no, I need to add yet another frame. So I added a little bit of black paper to back them up and frame these little paintings even more. And how I really feel like the cards have come to life. And remember, this is an abstract, a zoomed in shot looking at a decorated Christmas tree. And that's where my imagination went with this. It looks retro, it looks kind of cool, and I'm really loving this for a Christmas card because it is definitely out of the ordinary. And out of the ordinary can be really fun. Well, that's it. My last little holiday creative project of this year. Of course, next week we'll be looking at New Year's Eve being right around the corner. And I don't still know what I'm going to create next week, but I'm sure it's going to be lots of fun. For all of my friends and family out there celebrating Christmas, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas. And I wanted to thank each and every one of you for making the time to join me on my creative journey this week. I hope you have a wonderful week and happy creating!